Guys, thank you so much for coming on. This is great. This is, I think, our third time, third time
Sounds
doing
Yes,
this.
about
I
right.
don't,
I
Yeah, I
I
think
actually,
don't,
so.
hell yeah,
yeah.
I made a point. I was like, all right, I need to do a little bit more homework for this interview. So I went back. I watched Combat FC 7.
Oh,
So I
nice.
saw definitely. I rewatched Lazoya's fight because I know he's got a big fight coming up. Um, and actually, you know what? The first fight I want to talk about was the Nelson Muse fight from Combat FC 7. Now, good fight, solid fight. It was an interesting way it ended. How they tallied the scorecards at the end after the accidental
Yeah,
foul. Now, crazy walkout for what's his first name?
Muse,
Muse.
Jerry, yeah.
Gerald.
Gary
Yeah.
Muse. What do you think? Do you think there's anything with how much energy you have to put into whether it's like mental energy, it's physical energy? There's a lot that goes into choreographed walkout like that. Do you think that has any effect on you, or would have an effect on a fighter?
I'm gonna say no because one of my favorite fighters ever, Frankie Edgar,
Yeah,
like from his locker room, fucking runs to the cage every time, right? So he's expending more energy in that long ass run to the cage than Jerry does as he's dancing around, right? So I think it helps keep him loose. It's, he's having a good time. I don't think it impacts his performance. I mean, I think the fact that he was fighting a phenomenal athlete with much better kickboxing than him is
yeah.
what impacted his performance, right? I mean, it
That
was
dude Nelson was throwing bombs. He
he
Yeah,
was
is,
cracking them.
he is, and I said it before the fight. Like everybody asked me, like, what do you think of this fight? And I said, you know what, I'm excited for it. Um, I think it's going to be completely one-sided. And they're like, well, who do you think's going to win? And I said, I don't have a fucking clue. But
that
it's
was the
either going to
thing.
be like if Jerry can't take him down, he's going to have a real hard time kickboxing with Damian for 5 rounds.
Yeah,
And if Damian can't keep it on his feet, he's going to have a hard time with Jerry on the ground. So
Yeah,
it was just, like I hate to use the whole, striker versus grappler thing, but I think in this case we knew one way or the other, like this isn't going to be a 5 round split decision fight of the night war. Either
yeah,
Jerry's going to take him down and get him out of there, or he's not going to be able to take him down and Damian's going to punch the shit out of him.
yeah.
Right.
And
So that
he was tough. He hung in there. Just
super tough.
couldn't
Super tough.
couldn't couldn't figure out a way to implement his game plan. He was trying the M&R rules. He was shooting for
Yeah.
takedowns, but Nelson, he set everything up so well with his hands and moved his feet so well. He couldn't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
fight.
I think, it was also Jerry's first time cutting down to that weight. So I think,
Oh,
by
really?
the end of the fight, yeah, he normally fights at 155. That was the first time he ever went to 45.
yeah.
So
What do you think he walks around at? He's not a small kid. He's a big guy.
yeah, I mean, he's fought for us.
Relatively.
Yeah, he's fought for us at like 165 before, right? Like, so he's
Yeah.
not a small guy. Um, I would say that fight, it was his first time cutting down to that weight. Um, I think that probably impacted his cardio a little bit. It probably impacted, like I've talked to him about it after the fight. He was saying that his coaches were saying that he looked, can't remember the exact word that he used, but like less explosive, like they said he looked less strong
Flat.
in the clinch than he normally does.
Yeah.
Like he normally is kind of manhandling guys in the clinch at 155 and felt like he wasn't as strong at 145. So I don't know. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean,
Nelson looked pretty big for 145. He looked a little bigger, I thought, than Hughes did. He was
yeah. Yeah, he's a
pretty
big kid.
smart.
Yeah, he's a big kid, big, powerful
What
kid.
what do you guys
Jerry's a
think?
tough kid.
Yeah.
He's an Army Ranger. I mean, he's not a that was a tough fight. I mean, he stood in there and he didn't take a step backwards. You know what I mean?
No.
He tried to win. He just was he was outstruck. I mean, he was just, there's no better way to say it, right? He was just, he got pieced up, but it was, it wasn't for lack of trying. I tell you what, he's a tough bastard. You got to give him respect. Did not want to lose that fight. He was trying every second of it. A lot of guys break under that kind of pressure, and I don't know. I thought very tough fight, but gave a good account of himself. He didn't.
Yeah,
he didn't back down. He could have taken a lot of ways out.
Yeah.
So.
What did you guys think at the weigh-in for that fight? When he was wearing a gun in a holster, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's crazy.
I don't know. Like, oh shit, like that's fucking crazy.
Well, did you see that? Did you see a bunch of people on the internet started giving him shit, saying he was in blackface? So,
yeah. Well, oh yeah, he had like the Rambo shit on, right?
Right. Well, so in
person, that's not blackface. That's completely different.
In person, it was obviously camo. It was a couple different shades of green. It had some black, but and if you looked at the Fight Pass video that was in like real light,
he's got the Rambo bandana on too.
Yeah, and it was in real lighting with like with a real camera, and it was like high def. You could clearly see that it was green camo face paint. But when it was like, our guy that does the social media taking pictures from, across the room with the shitty lighting on an iPhone, like, when you just like, that's what we're using to post on social media, right? Like you're using an iPhone and you're taking it in the, we did the face-offs in the, just in the weigh-in room with, whatever lighting is normally in there to, to light a poker tournament, right? Like it was just like normal, dim lights, right? So in that, yeah, it looked black. Like from across the room, it looked like he was in blackface, and like
that's like I feel like it's like a skit from South Park, like somebody get in trouble for getting interpreted as blackface when it's clearly
right.
Camera.
Yeah,
like if you're gonna make a thing about that, you can like eat a dick and go be quiet.
That dude's just, he's a weak person that did that. You know what I mean? She's a very, very weak man. You know what I mean? And it's like looking for something to be offended about. And like I said, Jerry's an Army Ranger. Like the kid literally puts his life on the line to, to protect the country. And this guy's gonna bust his nuts about, I don't know, just stupid. And then, he's like, oh, I'm glad the guy beat the bag out of him because, blah, 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 and he deserved it and all this shit. Like, come on, what would be the upside for him to do something like that? It was just stupid.
Why? Like it's such a non-issue, just generate some sort of outrage for no reason.
Yeah,
that aggravates me. But hey, you know what? When you're putting yourself out there, you're trying to get on you get on a bigger stage, you get more eyeballs looking at you. It's unavoidable. It's just what people do. They talk shit.
His walkout before that made the UFC top 5 walkouts of the year.
I saw it. Yeah.
He did another walkout before that, the fight before, and then he finished the guy. And how long was that Imanari roll, Rick?
I don't know, 15 seconds. Either way, he's fighting for somebody else. So let's just cut all this shit out and not talk about any of it.
Oh yeah.
So, he's not fighting on our show. We had whatever. I don't even want to get into it. He's not fighting for us. So let's not even get into it.
Gotcha. Well, the other fight that I watched right after that, the Carlos Lazoya fight, that was I remember watching it live and being like, this is sick. But I mean, he got rocked. He got dropped a couple of times. Just showed what he had for heart, stayed in it, and just was always throwing back punches, and his grappling was unbelievable. He just took him down and dominated him.
Yeah. That was another fight where I looked at it. That one actually ended up being a much better fight than I thought. But that was another one that I looked at and said, if Carlos can take him down, it's he's going to have a lot of advantages there. If he can't take him down, it's going to be a tough one. But they ended up, it was a nice little war there for a couple rounds. And so, it was, he looked great.
Yeah, he got hit. That dude had a nasty jab, dropped him with the jab, but he stuck with it,
Yeah, he hit him clean a bunch. He hit him clean a lot. And, but Lazoya came out, won the fight, looked outstanding. And, this is another unique test coming up for him. The kid that he's fighting now is he used to be a bigger guy. Like he used to fight at 145. He actually lost to Damian Nelson, our champ that we were just talking about. He lost to him at 145 and then decided to drop down to 135. It's like I'm not as big as Damian, right? So I'm not quite at 145 or so. I'm gonna go to 135. And he's looked good. He's looked real good. Tom Picciano is the guy's name, super tough guy. Gritty, he likes to grapple a bit too, but I would say it's definitely a different style. Whereas, Lazoya, if he takes you down, he's really, working a lot of submissions, positions, trying to get to submissions. There's some ground and pound mixed in there, but he's definitely trying to get you out of there with submissions, whereas Picciano is more of a ground and pound guy on the ground. So it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We'll see how it goes. I mean, we've got a tough 135er. Carlos has got more experience, but he's a 125er. He bounces in between. So it's the fact that he can make 25 makes me say he's a 125er, right? Like Picciano could never make 125.
Yeah.
So he'll have the size advantage, but Lazoya's clearly got the experience, jiu-jitsu black belt. It'll be a fun one. We'll see if Carlos is gonna get a second belt wrapped around his waist. We'll see.
Yeah. What does that do for you guys as far as when you have a champion, either whether it's like getting another belt in another weight class or defending his belt? Does that give you guys like a boost at all, you think, in numbers? Like once you have somebody a little bit more established, sort of defending?
I mean, I would say it certainly doesn't hurt, right? Like we were reluctant to do stuff like this initially because it's like, well, you're tying up two divisions with, but really it's not like we have champions in every division. And it's not like the UFC.
He's clearly in that top spot. Even at 35, he's clearly in that top spot. So it's tough to not do it, right?
Right. But even still, where I was going with it though is like it's not like it's the UFC where we've got a line of 20 125-pound guys that we're ready to throw in for the belt. Like in New England, like there's really maybe one guy that could fight Carlos at 125. So it doesn't really hold up our division if he goes up to 135.
What do you think is the premier division? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think is the premier division in New England?
That's a real tough question to answer because it changes so often. Like all it takes is for one or two guys to go to the UFC and then all of a sudden the division's, not great anymore. I mean, I'd probably say, 135, there's a lot of really good guys. There's some tough guys at 135. I know we've had, we've got our third, like we're going to have our third champion at 135, after this show. So I would say it's, that's a really active weight class. 155 is normally really good, but I would say right now we're kind of in a, we're kind of in a weird spot where there's not a ton of guys at 155. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. I'd probably say 135, maybe even 145.
Yeah. I would imagine too.
Papos was 35?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our last 35 champ went to the UFC.
Actually, no, so that'd be four. This will be the fourth one.
Yeah.
Because so we had Pompos, then we had Duma, then we had Ashik, and now, we'll have a fourth champ at 135. So yeah, I'd say it's at the local level, that's the interesting thing about these belts is like I've said this about some of the other shows, like kind of half tongue in cheek, but it's true. If you've got a champion that's like defended his belt 4 or 5 times, like you're doing something fucking wrong. Like if your champion is 4 or 5 fights away from going to the UFC, what the fuck is he in a title fight for?
Yeah.
So like there will never be a time that we have a champion that is a staple for our organization and defends the belt 5 times in 2 years and and everybody's, you know, like clamoring for the next matchup with the number one contender. Like, it's just not really how it works as a regional promotion, right? Like if someone's killing everybody, I mean, shit, it would be shocking if a guy defended the belt 3 times. You
Yeah.
know,
You know,
guys just end up getting contracts with the UFC or you know, now Bellator is gone, but I mean PFL, you know, something like that. Like there's other bigger promotions that they can get signed to. Um, you
yeah,
know,
Fred, that
so
was part of when we did the Fight Pass deal. That was part of what, I said to them. I said, what is it that makes us successful from Fight Pass's, view? And obviously, they want more people to subscribe to the network because of our product, right? They want more people, subscribing to See Combat FC, and then they want more people to watch that are on the network, right? People that are already subscribers. But the third big thing is they wanted guys to come from our organization and then go fight for the UFC, which we have a tremendous track record of. John, I think we talked about this before. John Jones used to fight for us back in the day. When John was 4-0, and
he fought heavyweight. You said right against
Parker Porter.
Yeah, Parker Porter.
And then, guys like Calvin Kattar. There's been a ton of guys that have come through, but like when Rick matches the fights, like those are the things that we have to think about, right? We're not just matching, guys for the sake of matching guys. We have to do stuff strategically. We want the top guys, and all the top guys that want to fight for Rick. They come in and they're like, we want to test ourselves and we want to be seen on TV. To take a fight that's not televised on UFC Fight Pass, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody, you want to get noticed, right? That's where you get noticed. So it's tough. It's tough for, and then there's guys that want to fight for us that we just don't have room for. I think we talked about this a little bit the first time too, was, I was messaging people and we'd been out of business we hadn't done a show in 10 years. And I was messaging guys, the young guys, and couldn't get anybody to call me back. And then finally I said, hey, ask the oldest guy in your gym if they know who Rick or I are. And then we started getting people calling back, say, oh, yeah, my coach says, you're a good guy. We can do business with you, that they know Rick or whatever. And that's when we started getting guys. But at this point, we get everybody that we want, which is great. And that we're getting the guys that truly have the potential to go to the UFC. They're not just fighting on a regional, on a local show. They're fighting on a regional show to get to the next level,
Hell yeah. I know another from the comedy world. I know a fighter on the card, James Marin. I actually just had him, and I interviewed him on I think Sunday or Saturday. He came into the studio. We talked for a little bit. So I'm pumped for his fight for sure.
Yeah.
So is he in the comedy world? I didn't know that.
Say again?
Is he in the comedy world?
Yeah, he does stand up.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's funny. He I long before, I didn't even know he was a fighter when we first met. And I think he's still living in Salem, but there's a couple of places that I would do shows in Salem. And one of the bookers from Salem would use me like pretty regularly. So I'd go to their open mics on Wednesdays at a place called Hollow Ground. And I just got to know him just like from there, just chilling in the back. And then I friended him on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh shoot, dude, you're a fighter? That's crazy!" And then just knowing him here and there, and I saw that he was fighting on the card, so I was like, "Oh, dude, you got to come in. You got to do a shit."
Yeah, I'm excited we got him. He's a good guy. He's a tough kid, real tough kid. Got real good hands.
Yeah. His fight's gonna be fun. We got him in there with another guy that kind of prefers to box. Prefers the boxing aspects and stand-up aspects of MMA, so they're gonna kick the shit out of each other. So
yeah, absolutely. And that seemed to be what his frame of mind was when I talked to him.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
I don't think he's gonna be shooting for any takedowns, so I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We're excited about that. I mean, we've got we've got some exciting stuff on this one. So I mean, I know you said you just watched Combat FC 7. Josh Medeiros fought on that.
Yeah.
He's looked real good. He looked really good at on our last event. He picked up a nice knockout. He's got a decent test on this show here. A guy that's got a bunch more fights than him. Guy that's bigger than him. Guy that normally fights at 135 is coming down. They're meeting at a catchweight at 130. it'll like we'll get to see if Josh has worked on some things, right? Because a couple fights ago, he was in with with another tough kid with more experience than him, and Josh was all over him. Looked to be clearly winning the early rounds, but the other guy just kind of, did what veterans do, found a way to hang in there, found a way to tire him out, and was able to get a win. So I'm sure that's what Sean Johnson's going to be looking to do here. I'm sure he's watched that film 100 times, and he's going in there saying, "All right, I got to weather the early storm. I got to find a way to drag this kid into deep waters and try to get a win late." So we'll see the improvements Josh has made in his game, and I would say if he's still the same guy he was a year ago, he's gonna have a lot of trouble with Sean, but Josh continues to improve. So we'll see. It's gonna be a big test for both guys. That's probably I mean, if you ask me to pick, like kind of, name 3 fights that I think could be fight of the night, that's one of them for sure. I mean, I don't know that Medeiros has ever been in a boring fight.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be a good one. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun night. We got a lot of cool stuff on it.
He's got a big following too. Everywhere I go, people ask about him. Like Medeiros fight,
Yeah.
Medeiros fight. I'm like, yeah, he's a good kid. He's got a
Jan or you're saying
Medeiros.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Jan obviously has a big following too. Yeah, I mean, Jan's gonna have Jan will probably have the biggest crowd there that night. Everybody's excited to see him get back in there. He's also going for a belt in a different weight class, and that one was kind of funny how that came about, right? So he was supposed to fight Sean Lally, but and they were gonna, Sean was a guy that was on Contender Series, and I know Jan was looking at it like, I want to go out there and I want to prove that I'm ready for the next level, so who can I go out and fight that's going to be like a name opponent that the UFC's heard of, right?
And he's one of the best guys. He's one of the best guys out there. He's a 70 naturally.
Series, yeah,
tough, durable guy.
Yeah. So yeah, that was supposed to be the fight, but then Sean got, he opened up another gym, and he got a little too busy with life to do it this time, and it was supposed to happen before, but Jan couldn't get cleared. He was still dealing with the eye injury, so like, maybe we book that fight again in the future, but for this one here, Jan's fighting a kid named Chris Foster. And we were struggling to find some opponents for Jan. There were a couple guys that initially said they wanted it, and then, a week or so later didn't want it. And Jan actually ran into Chris and Chris hadn't fought in a little bit, right? And Jan ran into Chris at another fight, and they were just kind of poking fun at each other. And, many years ago, they were supposed to fight, and then it didn't happen. And, they were just like kind of playfully jabbing at each other. And then Chris said something like, I'd still fight you, right? And Jan was like, yeah, I'd still fight you too. And then both guys the next day were calling me up like, granted this fucking asshole, right? And then,
oh, really?
Yeah, and then they were both calling me up, and they're like, yeah, let's see if we can get that. And so yeah, it wasn't playful for too long. They both were saying they want the fight, and Chris is a guy that, he used to fight much lighter. He actually used to fight. He's fought guys like Calvin Kattar and Rob Font. He's a guy that used to fight 145, 155. But he, like so many of these young athletes, as they grow up, Chris is like a 200-pound firefighter now, right?
Yeah.
So like, instead of being like, if you think about what Anthony Johnson used to look like when he used to
185 Rumble.
Yeah, he fought at 170 for
170. Yeah, you're right. 170.
Right. Like, so that's what Chris used to look like at 145. Like, he was ripped, he was lean, but then all of a sudden you stop fighting MMA and having a reason to make 145, and all of a sudden your frame fills out. And I mean, the pictures of him, on the ones that they sent in for the posters, I mean, he looks fucking huge.
Yeah.
But he's lean. Like, so that's the thing. Like, it looks exactly like what, when Anthony Johnson went to heavyweight. He never looked chubby, like he was,
yeah.
like, he was jacked at 235, right? So it seems like that's what, that's what Chris looks like. So he's about, same size as Jan. They're the same height. They're both, pretty big dudes. And that's, I mean, for the first time, I'd say this will be the first time that someone is confident that they can box with Jan and kickbox with Jan. Like normally the guys that fight Jan are looking at it like, all right, my path to victory is I'm going to take this guy down. I'm going to ground and pound. I'm going to submit. Like that's usually the tack that they take. Whereas in this instance, Chris is, he's the first guy that thinks he's going to outstrike Jan, and he's going to go out there and try to test him that way. So,
and Jan's a guy that's got his striking coach isn't he Pereira's guy? How's that work?
Yeah. It was Alex Pereira's striking coach is.
Oh, nice.
That's who Jan was working with for a very long time. So Jan's a very good striker. I mean, he's very, very heavy kicks, very heavy punches. So, I mean, I'd be shocked if it'll go 5 rounds. I mean, I just don't see how that's possible. I mean, somebody's going to get stopped. And those are the types of fights I think that I don't know what it is, but like, maybe it's because they look like superheroes as they get bigger. Whereas, you may see some crazy skill in the lighter weight classes, but you don't see many 135-pound guys in the UFC that are crazy popular and superstars. It's always the bigger dudes that the crowd tends to latch onto. So I mean, we've got 2 guys that are, I mean, they're going to be the biggest guys on the card, right? The main event are the 2 biggest, the 2 scariest, and they also are going to have.
What did Jan say he was walking around at? When we talked to him at dinner, he told me he was walking around like 2.
It was something, I want to say it was like 200, it was like 205, something like that. I can't.
No, he's way bigger than that. When way
back when?
Yeah, back the first time I saw him when he was talking about getting back in. I think he was.
I think he was like something like 235, 240 when you first saw him.
Yeah, it was, when I saw him, he said
that's a lot of weight to cut.
Well, it wasn't a cut.
Like, he was in good shape. It wasn't. I was gonna say he was in good shape. It wasn't like he was big and fatty, but he was still in good shape. He was just a big dude.
Yeah. And that was before he put in a training camp. Yeah. So I mean, his first fight back, he made 185. So he's he lost a bunch of weight, to get ready for
before he cuts.
But yeah, I mean, it's always cool when the main event are the 2 biggest, scariest looking guys on the card. Like that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, we know they're going to stand and throw with each other, so it'll be exciting. I don't want to keep saying everything's going to be exciting, but it's going to be fucking exciting. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And it's cool. So I liked all the, I think Combat FC 6, maybe. I went back and watched some of the promotional stuff with Jan, and he just seems like a good guy to follow too. I think they're showing him in his car and stuff. And I think, was he the one? He also has is it a construction company or a landscaping company?
Yeah, construction. Yeah,
Pro Warrior Construction. Yeah, he does. He's got a big outfit. He's got a lot of guys working for him. He's done well.
Oh, yeah.
He took all that time off. He was fighting when he was young, and he took the time off to actually, get a family, raise his kids, get a business and do all that stuff, which is admirable. And then he came back and he still wanted to fulfill his dream. This is it. He wants to go to the UFC. He's 6-0, and win over a guy like this will put him in line for that. The question is, are they going to take him where he's a little bit older? He might be 34 or 35. The UFC is typically not looking for those guys, but if they get a last minute guy, with his relationship with Pereira and those guys, and then our relationship with the UFC, we will obviously push to help them any way we can. So, it'd be great if they snuck him in last minute, and he got in there and got a couple of big wins and, lived his dream out, because he's at that level. He's a tough guy, he's a real durable guy. He's a big dude, that, like I said, he cuts down to that. It's funny because even the small guys, like we were talking about those guys at 35 and 45, you know, when people hear that don't know a lot about MMA, like, oh, those are really small guys. They're not. They're, you know, a 45 guy might be walking around at 190, you know.
Yeah, they get small.
He's a big dude, but he cuts way down and weight to this thing. He's only 135 from a, you know, it's for the shortest time possible. It might be an hour that he actually touches 135 or 136. If it's not a championship fight, it's 136. You get the extra pound. But, you know, the next day he'll be back up 15 pounds. And, you know, and then a week later, you won't even recognize him, you know. So they're a lot bigger than what they fight at, you know. Obviously, you know, for people that don't know that part of it, you know, you sound like, oh, it's 125 pound guys, 125 pound guys walking around at 60, right, Rick?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
That's always such a big conversation too. It's like, how do you get weight cutting? Like that would be ideal, right? If nobody had to cut any weight, nobody ever tried to cheat. Everybody just kind of had their general weight, and that's what they fought at. But it seems like that's probably impossible.
No, it's really tough. It's a great idea, but it's just really tough to implement.
Yeah, I mean, it is impossible. Like there's no. The thing is, there's always going to be, like, first off, it's very difficult to walk around at an exact weight.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know what you weigh, but I would guess you're probably not 170 on the nose, 185 on the nose, or 205 on the nose, right? Like,
no.
You know, like.
You know, so I actually do. I weigh myself every day. I don't know. I am like, whenever I gain a pound one way, I get like, it happens all the time. Like, I'm not saying I'm like this crazy shit, but like, I always know when it happens. And it always, I don't know what it is. I have to
where I'm going with it though,
let's
just say that you're a guy that is, you know, I don't know, 178 pounds. Like, yeah, I guess you could like lose a little bit of weight, just try to maintain in the low 170s so that you can make 170. But like, there's always going to be someone that's a little bit bigger that tries to, like, not everybody is going to walk around at the exact same weight, right? So there's always going to be some amount of cutting, and there's always going to be someone that wants to cut a little more. I mean, there were guys that, when it used to be same day weigh-ins on these local shows, like, there were guys that would cut that much weight and then go fight 3-4 hours later. They'd just be rehydrating, you know, like they wouldn't eat all day. They would, you know, and so, I mean, I don't know. Like, I know that they have, you know, they say in Japan that, like, oh, you know, ONE FC is doing it right. And, but like, you know, because they have, like, they do hydration tests and you can only lose a certain amount. Like,
yeah, California, I think, doesn't CSAC do the same thing now too, or something very similar to that?
They do try, yeah. They make you do like hydrate, but like, but the thing is, like, all of, like, as soon as I watched, I can't remember the guy's name right now. It's been a crazy week, but the guy that Mighty Mouse had those fights with, the guy who stopped Mighty Mouse, what is it?
Morales?
That guy.
I can't remember his name, man.
In ONE FC for the belts you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think it was something Morales.
Yeah, the guy,
Sergio Morales?
Yeah, the guy that he finished with a flying knee, like, so he
got the same way he got finished.
Knee, and then like, that guy is not the same fucking size as Mighty Mouse. So like, as soon as they say, oh, they do hydration tests, they make sure that the athletes are the same weight, get the fuck out of here. Look at the size. Like, you've got a guy that looks like he's, you know, he looks like he could be a 155er fighting at 125. And we're going to say that, oh, so it's like, okay, so that's all bullshit. Like, it's, you know, that none of this is, like, you clearly can beat the hydration tests and cut all the weight you normally do. He's got to be the biggest 125er on the planet. So, like, I don't know. It is what it is. Like, ultimately, guys have to fight at the weight class that they feel they can perform the best in on fight day. So whether that means, you know, if you're a guy that weighs 177 pounds, maybe you fight at 170, maybe you go to 155, you know, but there's pros and cons to both. So I don't know, man. Who knows?
We do a lot of catch weights, Fred. You know, we'll when we talk about it, we'll do catch weights because, you know, our philosophy is, unless it's for a title, like why kill yourself, right? If like a perfect example was Jan and Lally when they were first talking about fighting, they're both 170s. And we were like, why don't you fight at 85? Like, you both walk around a lot heavier. Like, why would you kill yourselves? And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, why would you kill yourself? And they both were like, we can do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can do it. I mean, why take that extra, risk, right? So you're pulling water from every, at that point you're cutting water, and you're pulling water from every place in your body, including your brain. And I'm just not a big fan of it. I don't know the answer, but I just don't love it. I don't love making guys cut like that. We had one of our guys recently cut, and I saw him in the back, and I was like, dude, you got to go get an IV. And there's places you can just get a bag of saline and vitamins, and they won't let you do that in the UFC anymore because they think it interferes with the drug test. But where nobody's getting drug tested at this level, the state of Massachusetts doesn't drug test, so it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can just go get a bag of saline and put all that fluid right back in your body, and then it's safe, right? So it's like $120. It's not like it's a ton of money,
Yeah.
You literally go and you sit there for 20 minutes and so I told one of the guys, I'm like, you should do that. He says, do you guys pay for that? I was like, I have to pay. The problem is if I pay for you, I have to pay for the next guy. And then now we're starting to influence the weights, right? And it's like, you can't get involved in stuff like that. We had asked to do things like, weird things like that. I'm like, we can stay neutral. You know what I mean? We're Switzerland. We promote the fight. We make the even matches. Rick makes the even, the most even matches you can, and then everything else you got to kind of do yourself. You deal with the commission on all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like I think last time, Rick, you were talking about how like fighter medicals, and sometimes people want you to pay for their medicals, but it's like you can use those medicals in any fight promotion. And
he had another guy asking me to do it this week. It's like, we can't do it, man. It's we get asked to do it all the time. We've had, we've paid for somebody's medicals and then the kid didn't end up fighting. So that's a one-time fuck up. Won't happen again.
Yeah. And as far as like the weight cutting and stuff goes, just go back there a little bit too. I'm sure that's probably saved you a ton of fights, telling people like this main event, find out 185. Like, who knows how I'm sure there is a statistic for about how many fights get lost in the cut.
Yeah. I think you get a better fight, Fred, right? I mean, it's if a guy's hydrated, he's ready to go, and he feels good, and he's comfortable, and he didn't kill himself in the sauna and leave it all on the floor of the sauna, I think you just get better fights, and it's safer. Like, that's the big thing with us. It's like safety. You know what I mean? Take it very, very serious.
Yeah.
We're not.
I will say you are absolutely right, though. We for sure lose less fights because of it.
Yeah.
That's for sure, because we lost the title fight, a couple shows back because the kid had a bad weight cut and he couldn't make the weight, right? Like, if that was a fight that was, if it was at 140 instead of 135, he probably wouldn't have had the cut that he had. Fight probably would have happened. I mean, it's
tough when it's the belt, though, right? It's
right. In that case, there was no, he didn't really have a choice. But yeah, there's, even in the amateurs, like, we have guys that, like, rarely do guys miss catch weights. I mean, or if they do, they miss by a slight amount and can find a way to get it off. Like, but guys don't often hospitalize themselves trying to cut to a catch weight.
Yeah.
Like, it's those last 5 pounds that kill them. Like, it's the last 5 pounds that they struggle with. So it's like, let's skip it. Let's skip those skip cutting those last 5. And if both guys are cool with it, great.
As long as they're evenly sized guys, I mean, there's no advantage to either one of them, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a guy that's way bigger, I mean, obviously, you want to make that guy cut if you're the opponent, but if you're not, you're the same size, like,
Yeah. Might as well both save it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny though, but I will have some coaches that are like, we're professional. You know, like my guys make weight. 140 pounds isn't a weight class. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but like, who gives a shit? Like, it's not like, it's not like if you go out there and pick up a win, it's not like the
The
UFC
massive,
matchmakers are
it's
looking
like,
at your record going, you couldn't
Yeah,
make
they don't.
weight, not tubby, like, if it was the catch weight and everybody makes weight, nobody cares. It's not like the win means less because you both didn't kill each other, kill yourselves to get to the weight. So, I'm a huge fan of catch weights. I mean, we don't have as many catch weights on this one as we normally do, but we also
we got a
have
lot of fights.
John and
Yeah.
Chris. Those guys, like, if they were going to cut a lot of weight, they'd fight at 170.
Yeah.
They're both guys that could make that weight class. I mean, Lazoya is bumping up a weight class. The Medeiros fight's a catch weight. I mean, we've got some other guys like the Lucas Rosa fight that's at lightweight. He's a featherweight. So I mean, we have guys that, on this one, some guys have bumped up a full weight class. But yeah, we're not a huge fan of making these guys kill themselves. So
Now,
before I
Unless it's a
forget
title.
though,
Unless it's a title. If it's a title, you have to be on weight. You have to be
Yeah,
exactly on weight.
yeah. Before I forget though, we did something on this show that we don't normally do. We've got 3 amateur title fights on this.
yes.
So I think we've only done 2 amateur title fights total to this point, right? So for this one, we've got 3 amateur title fights, and like I'm so fucking excited. Like we've got some really, really good matchups. We had a 4th one that probably should have been a title, but based on when we booked it, one of the fighters coaches actually said, hey, it's, we're only like 3 weeks out. I don't want like
Yeah.
we don't have enough time to put in a
Round
camp for
fight.
5 rounds.
Yeah.
So we'd rather a 3-round fight this time. But I mean, realistically, it's one of the better fights on the card. I mean, so we should have had 4 amateur title fights, and like if you don't mind, I'm gonna chat through them real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the featherweight champion, Mike Jolicoeur, he's super exciting, a lot of fun. He's fought for us multiple times. He was the one that he won the belt on his 21st birthday. So like it's not gonna get cooler than this. Like that's one of those things where like you got to try to explain to him, hey man, soak this in, because on your
Yeah.
21st birthday, you won a belt. Everybody in the arena is kissing your ass. Everybody's buying you drinks. Like 22 is not going to be this cool.
No
Yeah.
other birthday is going to be as cool as 21 on that. For that
Yeah, he was walking around with the belt. He was, the best shape of his life. He's walking around with the belt. Everybody's kissing him and hugging him. We both said to him, "This is it, dude. This is as good as it gets." Like,
Yeah,
savor this one.
you just quit fighting, man. Stop, just retire. It's not going to get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mike's awesome. He's a really fun guy too. He's fighting a guy named Fred Allen Safir, and these two guys, their gyms are less than 30 minutes apart, and they both kind of watched each other come up through the ranks. And I think this fight's been offered in the past, but it didn't work out for one reason or another. And as soon as I offered it to both of them, I mean, they accepted in, I don't know, 10 seconds. Like it's a fight they both wanted. It's going to be a real fun fight. Fred's out of New England Cartel. So he's with Tyson and all those guys, and Mike's out of KTA, with Walter and Joey. And yeah, that's going to be a real fun fight. And then we've also got Jared St. Jean, who's fought for us 5 times, I think. I'd have to go back and look, but he's, his first fight was with us. I mean, I think his first 5 fights were with us. He took 1 fight somewhere else and won an amateur title, and is coming back, he's trying to win his 2nd local title with us. It's a vacant belt. He's fighting a guy named Jojo Gonzalez. And so Jared he's pretty well rounded. He's a good striker though. I'd say in this fight, he's going to have some advantages there. He's also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's been training, for a long time. even though he's only, 20, 21 years old. I think he's 20 now. He's not 21 yet. Um, whereas JoJo wrestled Division II in college, right? So we've got we've got Jared, who's probably, not that he's a bad athlete, but he wasn't a, Division II college wrestler level athlete, right? So we've got a really skilled MMA guy, really well-rounded, really good striker, fighting a former college wrestler who's probably got a little less experience in MMA, a little less training in the MMA gym, but phenomenal athlete, phenomenal wrestler. So, going to be an awesome fight. I think both of these guys are going to be really good pros. And then we also have Blaze Nichols and Nick Eldridge. Did you see Blaze's fight on the last one? He,
I don't know.
Yeah, would have been one of the amateur fights that was on Swerve, and he looked awesome.
I don't think I made it for the Swerve portion. I think I got there for the 3 title fights, I want to say.
Yeah. So he looked awesome. He went out and stopped a guy that was like 4-2, like super fast hands, and he's a young kid. Like if you look at him, if you look at his face, he looks like he's, I don't know, 16.
Yeah.
He's a real young looking kid, but he's real good. He trains with Kyle Bokniak at North Andover Jiu-Jitsu. And
yeah, that's actually right around the corner from my house. It's like 5 minutes away.
You should stop in.
I would say, what, I actually before they opened, I had already started training at another school. So I love where I train. I don't plan on leaving there, but
where do you train? Why don't you tell us where it is?
Oh, at Henzo Gracie in Wyndham.
Okay, nice.
Sometimes they also have another. I'm sorry,
is that Kevin's gym?
Yeah, Kevin Lander. Yep.
Yeah, Kevin's a great guy.
Oh, well, great!
I think that kid Fred was actually out of there too. Maybe you trained with him.
I have, looking at his picture on the flyer when I was kind of researching the card, I was like, I definitely have seen him at the gym before. I don't, probably not in a long time, but yeah, like right after I joined that gym, or maybe like a year or so, the Kyle Bokniak school opened up like right around the corner from my house. I was like, it just kind of worked out that way. If I hadn't already signed up for that gym, I probably would have signed up for Kyle's for sure.
Two great gyms, two really high level gyms.
Yeah.
Kevin's an unbelievable, jiu-jitsu guy. He's incredible. And then obviously Kyle's, his career speaks for itself. He's a savage.
Yeah, Kevin's a great.
I don't want to forget the last guy though. We can't get too
sidetracked.
We can't forget to talk about Nick. He's, we can't skip the last guy in the title fight. He's out of Nostos MMA, out of Devin Powell's gym. He trains with Kyle Hill and Brody McDougal and those other savages up there. So, that's one that Nick probably has a better, well-rounded game. He's probably a little more technical, but Blaze is just super explosive, really, really good striker. So, I mean, it's a great fight. It's another one that, I couldn't pick a winner I can't pick one that I'm confident in any of those 3 fights. All 3 could go either way. In the other fight that I said could have, I offered it as a title fight, is it's our first female fight ever. It is Kat Torres versus Paige Wilcox. So Kat's 3-0, really, really tough. It seems like she's had a hard time getting fights. There's been a lot of, there's been people who have asked me, hey, do you know anyone that'll fight her? Do you have anyone available? And she's pretty hard to match up, and Paige is super tough. She's from New York. So she's making the trip out, and it's gonna be an awesome fight. They're both one of my gripes with some women's MMA is there's a lot of decisions. There's a lot of them. I would just say, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would say statistically, I see more female fights go to decision than the male fights, and that to me, whether it's a submission or a knockout, that's the exciting part for me. I like seeing a fight get finished. My
DraftKings history is right along with your thinking. It's usually betting overs and no
Really?
wins. I'm not gonna lie. That's always been my strategy.
And I bet it works, right? Like
It's pretty good. It's
yeah,
you don't always
yeah,
get the best coverage on the line, but it'll help out a parlay here and there.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's you don't even need to know who it is. You just throw it in there, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I would say I would say these two here are definitely I mean their fights we see a lot of finishes in their fights. I mean, I'm trying to look at it right now. I mean, I think between the two of them, I think there's only one decision win total. One or two, like I think they might have one each. So yeah, they're finishing most of their fights. So yeah, it's they're both
I'm
excited.
excited.
It's a big
Yeah,
moment for you
since-
guys too. First female fight. That's awesome.
Since 2006, like we've been doing this since 2006. We've never done one. I think we had one booked one time, and
Yeah.
and something
Yeah,
something
we
fell out.
did it. Yeah, we did. It fell apart, and that's always the tough thing is like it's part of the reason I don't book a lot of heavyweight fights either. Like I don't book male heavyweights because if somebody pulls out, you can't find a replacement.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just a lot less, you know, there's much fewer women fighting than there are men. So, especially in the amateurs too, right? It's so hard to fill amateur fights, right? Like people would think it's the exact opposite. But like, I mean, I lost the fight today. A kid pulled out and like it's really tough to fill an amateur fight on 7 days notice because you're fighting for free, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like there aren't guys. I mean, I have 6 or 7 guys that have reached out to me in the last week to say, hey, if you got anything on short notice, let me know. Like, because they want to come in and get paid. Like, you know, like there are guys that'll take a fight on, you know, they stay in shape, they stay ready, and if you offer them a fight, they'll come in on no notice. They'll, you know, win or lose, they know they're going to make $1,000, give or take. They'll do that all day. In the amateurs, these guys don't get paid, right? So if anything falls out, like if either of those two, I mean, I don't want to fucking jinx it, but if either of these women, like if I get a call from one of them tomorrow and they're pulling out, I'm definitely not going to fill the fight. There's no way.
Yeah.
There will not be
Yeah,
another.
it's not for lack of trying, Fred. Right? I mean,
Right.
we
Yeah. There won't be anyone else that'll take it.
Yeah, our philosophy is we owe you a fight if if you've trained and done all your part. Then even if we lose money on the deal by flying somebody in and doing all these different things that we have to do that aren't advantages to us, as a moneymaker, we still owe it to you. We always go out of our way to do that. And I think that's one of the things that people like about fighting for us is they know that we're gonna at least, beat all the bushes and try to find out whether we can get somebody to come in for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's tough with the amateurs, right? Because they don't get paid. So it's not like it's, nobody's going to say, you know what? Fuck it. I want to make
Just
a
pick this fight against this unknown girl and potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that's the thing. But in these two, they're not even unknown. You can look them up. You can see their fight footage, right? Like if like there are guys who will take fights on short notice who know like, hey, I'm definitely an underdog here, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, I'm going to give it hell. I'm going to try to take this guy out, but they're doing it because they're getting paid, whereas in the amateurs, like people aren't like, there's not many people who are crazy enough to just be like, fuck it, I'll take a fight in which I'm the underdog. Like this person's been in camp training for a fight for months. I'm going to show up on 1 week amateur fight, like not get paid. I'm probably going to get steamrolled, but whatever. Like there's just not many crazy people that like the only way it works out, the only way I can really fill amateur fights when I get close is if someone else had a fight on somebody else's show, a week ago that fell apart or 2 weeks from now that fell apart. Like if there was someone that was already in camp training for something within 2 or 3 weeks of us.
Yeah. Or a teammate. Sometimes, somebody's got a teammate that's been in, training with them and is close to the same thing, but it's tough. Amateurs are tough. And
now, what are the scoring and rule differences between the championship amateur fights and or just the amateur fights with the pro fights?
so the kind of a two-parter, right? So if we're talking amateur fights and amateur title fights, it's just the longer round length, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, longer the amount of rounds. So it's
But
still
it's
3 minute
a shorter round though, right?
the 3 minute rounds in the amateurs, yeah. And it's either 3 minute, 3 rounds. If it's a regular amateur fight, it's 5 rounds if it's a title fight. And the difference between amateur and pro is, there's no knees to the head, no elbows. I think there might be some other kind of minor things, but I think those are the big ones, right? Like you can't elbow and you can't knee to the head.
Okay, so like less cuts probably, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying. I mean, there are bigger gloves too. Before I forget, I mean, there are different gloves that they use. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think really they want people to get experience without getting hurt, and
Yeah.
if you got somebody that's never been in there before and they get, they take a flying knee or they're on their back getting their face smashed in with elbows, like, it's because you never know as you're matching up amateurs, because for a lot of these guys, I mean, I'm trying to look at it right now. We have three fights that are debuts entirely. Like neither guy has ever had a fight. So total of six guys that are making a debut. And then we've got another fight where one guy's, 1-1 and he's fighting a guy that's making a debut. So there's, a lot of the guys on this card, I mean, total of seven guys, it's their first fight ever. Like at some point, John Jones had his first fight ever.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, you never know with some of these amateur guys. Like, yeah, I can talk to their coaches. I can, like, I can try to do a little bit of research just by asking around. But, like, very rarely do I have a coach tell me, oh, this guy's going to be one of the best fighters you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like it happens occasionally. But, like, so with these amateur guys, I have no idea if, some of the, like, I assume the coaches are telling me the truth, and I've got some really rock solid matchups. But for all I know, one of these guys is, the next UFC superstar, or even if it's not the next UFC superstar, even if it's a guy that could be a really good local, like that's going to win a local pro title. Like, like if you watch the last event that you were talking about, right? You watch Combat FC 7. Sheik looked pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
You know, he had, there was a time that he made an amateur debut, right? So, in a lot of these guys, they look really good, right? So, if you've got a guy like that taking his first amateur fight against a guy that's, you know, a weekend warrior, like you got a guy that trains 3 days a week and he's like, yeah, I'd like to take a fight at some point. Like I think I'd like to do this a couple times just to say I did it. And then he gets matched up with, with somebody that's, that's going to be
Living
better.
it, breathing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or even
Well,
like,
the good thing is we have relationships with all the gyms. We're not going into it blind by any means.
Right.
Rick knows everybody, and the coaches, and I mean, they can only lie to you a couple.
Yeah,
we have
they can't lie to
relationships
you
with these
often,
guys.
but I would say in many cases too, you don't even know if these guys are going to be that good. Like, I don't know when Kyle Hill was making his amateur debut, if his coaches were like, yeah, he's going to be kicking people in the head and knocking them out. Like that's the thing. You never know until guys get in there. So,
And they might not even know.
right. So yeah, some guys perform better on game day, and I would just say, like, so just going back to, like why the rules are the way they are, like, yeah, they want to make sure that when guys are going out there and fighting for the first time, like that's when you're at the biggest risk of having a mismatch. When these are two first time guys and you don't know how they're going to react to getting hit, you don't know how they're like, those are the fights that, like, if you're fighting a guy that's never done it before, you never know what you're getting into. After a guy fights once and you can kind of see, I mean, especially if he goes out there and fights 2-3 times, you can get a real good idea of where the guy's skill set is. I think early on they're looking at it like, we got to make sure that we don't have, the next John Jones fighting, fighting some dude that, that's like 35 years old and wants to take one before he dies. Like,
It's too bad that's giving it a shot, right? Like you don't want
yeah,
to
exactly. Like, like fucking Peter from Whole Foods, right? Like
yeah.
he just wants to get, the blue belt. He worked his ass off for 3 years to get a blue belt in jujitsu, and he wants to go out there and test himself, and he runs into John Jones, right? Like it's, they want to make sure that in that instance he's not taking elbows to the face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the big reason why they have the different rule sets, and yeah, I think that's one of the main things. They want to protect these guys in their first couple fights.
Now, how are you guys holding up a week before the fight? Have you lost many fights? Have you been? You guys seem like very calm and like not too stressed right now, which I know this is probably like the hardest week, right?
Well, it's weird because a lot of it's done now, especially on Rick's side, right? He all the medicals are in. He's already talked to the commission. All the fights are approved. All the things on his end are done. Now it's the operation stuff, and I'm not a detail guy, and I'm the one that's in charge of a lot of that stuff. So it's always a big test. I write everything down, thank God, but there's a lot of moving parts. People don't get how many moving parts there are. We just we got a TV deal for this one where we're on with a new channel partner for the live event, for the main card and everything. So the UFC and WWE just merged. You saw that. So their network deal is up right now with ESPN. So nobody knows what's going to happen right now. Their budget is frozen. They had their budget for the year. It got frozen during the thing because you think about it, there's a WWE digital platform that's similar to UFC Fight Pass. I don't know what the name of it is, but there's another platform. WWE just merged. They did a network deal for $5 billion with Netflix. So, the question becomes, where is UFC going to wind up? And Dana was in town last week. We had dinner on Sunday. He was in Boston. So, and I was talking to him about, I'm like, where are you guys at? What's going on? I mean, this is it. When I talk about the end of the year, I'm talking about the end of December. They're going to be on a new network. So what does that do to us? Like, what happens with Fight Pass? Now, I've talked to those guys enough, the guys that I deal with, that Fight Pass isn't going to go anywhere. It's not only is it an extremely profitable business with a huge subscription base, but a lot of what they do is like they run all of Brazil through Fight Pass. So instead of going to ESPN, you go to Fight Pass. I don't know if it's a different price point or whatever. I haven't got that far into it, but like you buy your pay-per-view through Fight Pass. You buy your, it works the same way it works the same way that ESPN does. So it's not going away by any means, right? But the question is, where do we wind up? Do we wind up on Netflix? Do we wind up on Amazon, Prime Video? Or do we wind up on ESPN again? Do we wind up, and that stuff the UFC does? Obviously, I don't have it. The UFC does all that stuff, but we're one of the products on the Fight Pass. We're waiting to hear also. So we didn't have this last fight, this will be the last fight for the year. We didn't have this last fight on Fight Pass. So we had done our amateur fights for the last card with a company called Swerve TV. Did I tell you about that?
You were mentioning it last time.
Yeah, so Swerve's huge, right? They're a really good channel. They're what they call fast TV, so it's free advertised supported TV or free advertised streaming TV, and that's so you think about like Roku, Apple, Amazon, Sony, Vizio, Fubo, TiVo, Sling, Pluto, all those stations. We're on every one of them with the Swerve TV. So Swerve is 24 hours combat, right? If you turn on that channel at any time, you'll see, bare knuckle fighting. You'll see us. You'll see, a whole bunch of really good content, and it's free. It's 24 hours. Like you turn on them right now on any of those channels, and it's on. It's great. It's a really, really, really cool product, and it puts us in 80 million houses in the U.S. and Canada, which is an astronomical amount of eyeballs. So, that helps us with sponsorships. It helps us with, obviously the fighters want to get that type of exposure, right? And then the next fight we'll do on UFC Fight Pass and Swerve, right? So we'll have a combination of the two of them. But for this one, we're going to stream. I think we're going to do amateurs and pros.
some of the amateurs, all of the pros.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to say the titles.
Yeah. Yep. So it's, I think the plan as of today is to have the 4 amateur fights that I mentioned, the 3 title fights and the female fight. Those 4 fights along with the 6 pros. That's the current plan. But if we lose something, we'll probably bump something else up.
Yeah. Which is an incredible card. You know, you get that for free. I mean, it's incredible, right? So if people don't have access to get out to the show, you know, it's a much. I'm a firm believer in, you know, live shows, right? There's not. I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you've never seen the fights live, you've never seen the fights. I mean, it's completely different. You can attest to that. It's so much fun, and you know, our show, we don't talk about it enough. It's all ages. Like, you can bring your kids. You can bring my nephew comes. He's 5 years old. It's safe. It's fun. You know, it's just a really cool event. It's you know, we spend a ton of money on you know, lighting and production and doing it right, really, so it feels like a real event. And it's just, you know, it's been really good. So if, you know, people want to come out to the fight, you can get tickets at combatfc.tv or online on any social media is all at combatfc.tv. But if you can't watch it, you know, if you can't make it out, definitely watch it on Swerve, because it's a crazy night of fights. You know, that's all Rick's end. Like, we don't even talk about the fights. You know, we don't. I find out who's fighting when the guy that does all the graphics for us, Lars, when he sends the email to us, I open it up and then I'm like, oh, great fight. You know, and so Rick kind of deals with all those headaches and I deal with all the other headaches. So and he always stacks a sick card. I think Rick's the best matchmaker outside the UFC, and I think if he was in the UFC, he'd be the best matchmaker. So we're not trying to lose him to him.
Aw, thanks, Joe.
Yeah. We don't want to lose Rick. We like our Combat FC fights. How is it negotiating with Swerve? Is it more of like a new sort of negotiation for each event, or do you try to set something in place for a little more like longevity with the deal?
Well, we've committed to each other. You know, we do an event by event, just, you know, based on, because we're not sure what's going to happen with the UFC, right? So obviously, I think for the fighters, you know, it's a big deal to be on UFC Fight Pass, right? Like I said, you know, we talked about it. Guys that are really serious about making it to the next level will always take a Fight Pass show over a, you know, like a local show, because it makes more sense business wise, right? You're going to get exposure. I mean, there's guys that have fights that are wars and nobody ever sees them, and, you know, they're on smaller pay-per-views, which is not a knock on any of the promotion. It's just, you know, how do you get that exposure? Like, how do you get in front of Sean Shelby and McMahon and Dana and all that stuff? You know, I'll send Dana highlights of the fights. You know, we clip together stuff and I say, hey, take a look at these guys, you know, blah, 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 blah. And we talk about that stuff. And they actually, you know, when we do fights every once in a while, if I'm going to be someplace, they'll all watch them. You know, all my buddies will watch them together. And, you know, Dana's one of them, obviously. So, like, they'll all be at the Sphere. You know, I don't know whether they'll watch this one in particular because it's on Swerve, but, you know, if it was on Fight Pass, there'd be a chance that they would actually watch it. And then, you know, it would make a lot of sense for a fighter to be in that type of situation. But so we're still, you know, we work.
Yeah, I don't mean the UFC pulls a lot of their guys from Fight Pass. Right? Yeah. And a big reason for that, on top of the fact that, like, they partner with the promotions that they like, and the promotions that, you know, like, these are the types of promotions that are putting on the fights that I want. Like, on top of that, right, we've got those advantages. The other aspect of it too is they own the footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if somebody goes out and wins 3 or 4 fights at, you know, Fight Pass shows, and they go to make their UFC debut, the UFC can put together the, you know, the social media package, all the promos that they use on the broadcast. Like, they have access to that footage and can put something together really nice. And on top of
we share all that stuff with them, photos, all that, you know, everything that they have. We have all the old content. We have all that stuff that we can share with them, and they can use it anytime they want. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, not only do they own it, though, when we're on Fight Pass, we have to do a certain level of production, right? Yeah. So any show that's a Fight Pass show is going to have, like, the production is not only good enough so it looks good on TV, but when the UFC goes to use that footage, it doesn't look like ass, right? So that's another big piece of it too, is, Like that's a big benefit for the UFC and these guys that are fighting in the that are fighting on these Fight Pass shows. They know that the UFC has access to that footage and will use it in some of their promo stuff. So they do pull a lot of their fighters from UFC Fight Pass shows. So, I don't know if Joe mentioned it or not. Sorry, I was getting some messages while we were doing this, but I mean, it is going to be on demand on Fight Pass after the fact. So we're going to be buying them with the event, and it will be part of the library. So if someone
just with this continuity, you don't miss an entire event, and again, it still gets that exposure for the guys, and they can go back and watch their fights. They'll have them anytime they want them.
Yeah,
sure. The other fighters like it too. Readily available footage if you're trying to study somebody.
Yeah. So,
this is more of a UFC question, I guess. But where do you guys think the UFC might actually end up? Because I've heard different things, and then also I've heard Dana talk about at some press conferences, like maybe the UFC does sort of turn out like more of like a NFL style, NBA style, where it's on different networks. Where do you guys think that's going to end up?
I think it's going to wind up on different networks, without a doubt. The numbers that they're talking about. So the WWE got $5 billion, over their Netflix deal. So, I think the UFC is a more valuable property and a growing property, right? But I don't know. I'm not knocking WWE. I don't watch it. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that when they got
exclusive. Is it exclusive to Netflix?
I believe so. Yeah. Again, I don't watch it, so I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, there's enough channels out there that would want it, right? I mean, it just to draw in that customer base, right? I mean, I think sometimes it gets lost. Like it's 18 to 49-year-old men. Like you can't get in front of them. They don't watch TV, right? There's not. Like these companies that advertise against this, it's such a huge draw for it. Like I'll give you a perfect example is Harley Davidson. Like Harley Davidson's like, I'm the last guy that's going to buy one. You guys don't even think it's cool, right? You didn't grow up with it. You're younger than me. Like I'm the last guy that thinks it's cool to drive a Harley. And they need to rebrand. They need to start going after a younger demographic and kind of capture that coolness, I guess, is the way, for lack of a better term, right? But they, that was the thing. Like if you had a Holly, you were badass, you were macho, you were, and now, MMA is kind of, the same type of demographic, right? So if you want to get associated with that stuff and be part of a brand that's cool, obviously the UFC is the number one choice. And then if you can't get the UFC, UFC Fight Pass is the number two choice, right? We're in 180 countries around the world, and with this deal with Swerve, we're in 80 million houses in the U.S. and Canada. So, one of the things that we're really going to start focusing on, we're trying to grow the business, right? Grow till we sell out this venue that we're in, and then maybe even go to a bigger venue. But the other half of the business is sponsorships, advertising, people that want to get in front of this, and obviously these licensing deals. One of the deals that we did was with Nesson. We did a show called Combat FC Rewind. That's a look back at fights that have already happened, talking about upcoming fights. So that puts us 4.2 million houses in New England where the Red Sox and the Bruins play. Well, that's huge for advertisers, right? Anybody that wants to get in front of 18 to 45, 49-year-old men, that's, in New England. I mean, think of the businesses that would benefit from that. And we have TV inventory, and we have, spots in the ring, spots in the cage. We can do product integration. One of the things that we had talked about doing was we were going to go to Sig Sauer, which would have been incredible. We had, Sean, the first time Sean was supposed to fight in the I don't remember what, Jan's eye got messed up. But so that fight fell out. But, there's another Army Ranger, Sean Lally. And then, isn't Carlos a Ranger?
Rick, so I don't really know how to answer that because, like, apparently the way that it works is you have to pass all the Ranger tests, and then not everybody gets in to be a Ranger. So apparently he's, again, I saw this on an interview, so that's the only reason I know this. He's passed all the he's done all the things, but he's not a Ranger. I don't really.
Well, he's high level. He's a high level,
very high level.
Yeah, very, very high level soldier. So, and then Sean Lally and Jerry Muse. So what we were going to do is we were going to go to the 6 Hour Academy and maybe, shoot machine guns or shoot sniper rifles and then film that, right? And talk about
New Hampshire, right? Right. No, kind
of. Yeah. So the problem with that is, TV networks are a little bit leery about the closeness to guns, even though it isn't a gun 6 Hours a gun company, but 6 Hour Training Academy is not. And it was a, little bit of a conflict for them, but for us it would have been great, right? And for the academy, it would have been unbelievable because it puts them in front of a younger demographic of guys that might not be shooting yet. And what's cooler, right? One of my favorite things in the world: motorcycles, fights. Obviously the girls and guns. Those are literally the coolest. Yeah, so that's I think for customers that are looking for that kind of stuff, like brands like Harley Davidson and trying to get that younger demographic and be involved with something that's really cool. That's kind of the next step with us, is really, and that's why these partnerships are so key, because they snowball, right? So we get the best fighters. Now we get the best fighters. We get money from TV. Now we can pay for better production, and then and then we stop working on sponsors, and it becomes a very, very profitable model. At some point, we're not quite there yet, but we're doing good. If you said to me 2 years ago, where would you guys be? I would hope to be where we are. We got a really good product. We got all the top fighters. We get anybody we want. It's Rick can call anybody that's serious about fighting and making it to the next level. Will fight for us, anytime. And it's just been, it's good. We're in a really good spot. I got to get out of the operations end of it, doing the day-to-day stuff, and I got to get more focused on the business stuff. But we need to be able to hire somebody full-time to do that role, where I do it myself now. And we just brought somebody on with Rick to help Rick with a lot of stuff, and she's been awesome. So those types of things we're focused on, kind of, figuring out what our strengths are and playing more to the strengths. And obviously we're going to want to do more fights. We did 3 this year. The goal would be anywhere from 4 to 6 next year. If we can pull it off, and maybe some different venues. We're looking around at some different stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a dream venue?
Anywhere in the world? I don't. I'd love to do the Boston Garden, right? I mean, it would be, to go in there and sell 20,000 tickets. Not only would be a life-changing money event for us. Me and Rick would both, be in a different position financially than we are. But what would be cool? I go to those buildings when Dana's got the show there, and it's so electric, and there's so many people, and it's so cool. I'd love to do that. I mean, I'm sure Rick could say the same thing, like do the Mandalay Bay in Vegas would be unbelievable. That's where the UFC started when they were out there, and one of my favorite venues.
As far as what within the realm of possibility, I would probably say, the Agganis Center would be.
I still, me and Rick differ on that. I think that we can build this into a brand that's big enough that we could sustain a one time a year or once every couple of year big event at a place like the Garden. I personally think that getting to the next level is the hardest jump, right? It's just going from 3,000 to 6,000, right? It'd be a tough jump, but once you get to that 6, I think it becomes easier. And then a lot of the stuff is partnerships with radio stations and TV stations, and like I said, the thing snowballs. It gets bigger and bigger. So,
do you guys ever envision a time where, and I feel like they haven't been to Boston in a while, but if the UFC's on a Saturday card at the Garden, where you might think about doing like a Friday night before that?
We've thought about that. The good thing about something like that is all the fighters are in town, right? All the best fighters in the country are in town. So, you could go to an American Top Team and say, hey, you guys got 2 guys on your card. Let us take 2 of your fighters. You already have corners here. We don't have to fly extra guys in. And maybe we have a little bit more of a budget to play with to get some of those top guys to actually compete, from other parts of the country. Because, that's where it gets tough, right? It's like, there's an unbelievable talent pool of young guys across the country, but it just begins, you got to fly the corners and you got to fly them in, and then Ubers to the hotel, and you got to, there's just your hotel rooms, and it adds up very, very quickly to bring in guys outside the region. And really what we focused on is the Northeast. We wanted to capture this market, be the number one promotion here. We've done that. And now, stop thinking about those other things. So that would be a key to kind of growing that. I think that would be fun. But I don't know when they're coming back. The good thing is we'll probably hear about it first with Dana. So we can try to jump on something like that.
I heard that the UFC might try to start do some of that sort of cross promotional stuff with WWE on like a weekend show if they're
I don't know why they wouldn't, right? Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't. Yeah.
When I was watching the Combat FC fights, or right after it, I went down a Brock Lesnar wormhole on Fight Pass.
Oh,
yeah. I was thinking of that when you mentioned the Harley Davidson and all the old sponsors and stuff like that. I was like, man, I miss Brock Lesnar fighting. I want to come back one more. It's not going to happen, but I'd love it.
He was so much fun. There's a guy that did what I expected from him. I didn't know anything about him. Like I said, I'm not a wrestling guy, but I did actually, when I was a kid, I went to an event when I was like 17 or 16 or something. I went to a WWE event and Hulk Hogan was there. And it was, I was impressed. I was blown away by the production. I didn't understand a lot of who the characters were and that kind of stuff, but it was still an unbelievable production. They, I remember when they were a $285 million publicly traded company, and I was like, man, this is huge. It's so big. They just got valued at $9 billion when they did the merge with the UFC. I mean, people don't think that's a real business. That's an enormous business that they kick ass. They do a really good job. They get a very loyal fan base, and I think it'd be great if the UFC did something with them. Do cross promotion. I don't know why they wouldn't. I can't wait to see what kind of sponsors they bring on.
Yeah. I was obsessed with WWE back in the day. I went to the first event of any kind I went to was at the Old Garden. And I remember the first match, it was Repo Man versus Virgil. I remember it ingrained in my head getting down, to watch that match. It's crazy. I don't watch wrestling too much anymore, but it has. They had to pivot, especially I think COVID probably played a big part in it, but sort of adjusted, how their production, they adjusted how they run events. WrestleMania is different now. They make it work.
They do huge numbers. And it's fun, It's they definitely have a captive audience,
Yeah. But nobody was better than Brock. That was the best. That was he is maybe my favorite UFC fighter of all time, just because of how he went from WWF to NFL tryouts to like pretty much the highest level fight
of everything
right into.
Yeah, and it actually shouldn't have happened. Like that's the thing; it should not have happened. Like if you look at, like yes, he was a national champion wrestler. There's like, what are there, 13 weight classes, right? Like there's there's like a bunch of national champions every year.
Yeah.
And we see a bunch of guys that are national champion wrestlers that get into MMA like right away and don't win world titles. So the fact that he's someone that, I mean, for crying out loud, Daniel Cormier wrestled in the Olympics, and he's someone that like, it took him a long time to get to a world title. Right. So, the fact that Brock came in with like, he was out, like he didn't fight. Well, first off, he didn't fight ever, right? Like he wrestled and that was it. There wasn't really like an in-between where he was like, for 7 years he was training MMA. Like he just jumped back in and was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. And right. And like the fact that he was able to go out and like, I mean, what was it like? What do you have, like 4 or 5 fights or something like that?
It was 4 fights before he fought Frank Mir. Frank Mir won.
Yeah, but it was only like, I think he only won what, like 2 other fights or something before he won the belt. Like, so it was just bananas. And not only that though, like it wasn't like initially, like when he beat Randy Couture, it was like, okay, like it looked like David and Goliath, right? Like it, and Randy was a little older, so it was like, all right, yeah, but yeah, Brock won a world title, but I mean, he fought the right guy. He fought a guy who was probably a better technical wrestler than him, but looked like he was 40 pounds smaller,
Oh,
and
God,
he was
way
in his
small.
career. So like this was set up for Brock to win. Okay, but then Brock also beat Mir in the rematch, right? He punched the shit out of him, right? And then that Shane Carwin fight was ridiculous,
Oh my
right?
God. Who's scarier than Shane Carwin, too? That dude hit like a Mack truck.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, he
It
was
was
tough. He
like,
was a tough guy. He was fun to watch.
so I mean, that was the thing that was most impressive for me with Brock was like it wasn't even that he won a title that early. It was like he basically cemented himself as the best heavyweight, like, and there were some guys in Pride and things, but like, but as far as like there were a lot of really, really good guys in the UFC. Like, I don't think anybody expected Brock to come in and beat Randy, beat Frank, beat Carwin. Um, so I mean, that was the thing to me that was just like the fact that he kept doing it and he kept winning. That was the shocking thing. It wasn't that he put it together on one night to beat Randy Couture. It was like all the other fights after that. And
Yeah, he was fun.
yeah, and he takes a bunch of time away and comes back and beats Mark Hunt. Like he was just like it still it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how a guy
It doesn't
can
make any sense.
train, like as little MMA as he did. Like I don't understand how a guy can train that little as compared to everybody else, and then just come in, like take a bunch of time off, and then just like pop back in and win a couple fights, and then I don't know, it blows my mind. But anyway,
I think the year before he won the national title, he lost in the championship round to the old offensive guard for the Patriots, Neil.
oh no kidding, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, he had never played football before, but got drafted and just had great footwork, had good
Yep.
build for it, obviously. But man, Brock was just a freak. I guess he's like a butcher now, or does like stuff with butcher. I saw a picture on social media of him the other day. He's still Brock, right? He's like stretched out, or he's
Yeah.
like he was doing something like that, and he's next to like a big hog that they just butchered up, sliced open, and they got all 4 points like pulled out and stretched out, and Brock's next to it, looking huge. I was like, nobody's better than this guy. This is the greatest story in MMA history. It's no one's touching that for me anyway.
He's like a Viking. He's just a savage of a human being.
He has Viking blood. There's no way he doesn't have Viking blood going
Yeah.
through his
Yeah, he looks like he should be chopping horses' heads off.
Dude, he could. Probably
Yeah.
with like a hand chop, he could take a horse down. At least a pony's.
Yeah.
Yep. You coming
you
to fight
coming out to
ready
the
or
fight?
what do you get going on? You coming next week?
I was just
Oh
asking.
yeah. I'm definitely gonna try to make it. I actually I've had some like weird like show stuff where I think I was supposed to do a competition that night, and then I got moved to the fall. It's like a three. They had to break it down a little bit differently, so it's the three semifinals now are the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. So I got moved to the 20th.
Good.
So I think I am free now the 13th. So I'm gonna try to come for sure.
Awesome.
That's the one that my buddy's doing too, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. He's on the
Oh,
20th. Oh, that's good. Have you guys ever been to Wicked Funny before? You ever
I
hear
have.
it? It's
I
I don't think either one of us leave the house.
yeah. It's a Chinese food restaurant, and I guess they have like a side. It's right around the corner from my house. I've never been there myself, but I get excited for like competition style stuff. I don't know what
Fun.
it gets. I was in one last night in Summer Bowl, and I kind of sucked. I was a little disappointed, but not a terrible set. But
I can't believe the guts it takes to do that stuff. I would never be able to do it. They wanted me to film a open for when we had World Championship fighting. They're like, just say your name, welcome everybody to the show, and say I'm the president or whatever you want to say. And the camera hit me, and I just looked at it, and I couldn't remember what my name was. I couldn't remember what we were doing. I cannot do that stuff. I could never. I don't think I could get up in front of a. It's one thing to get up and talk. Like I could talk about stuff that I know about, but I like to entertain people. Completely different thing. You know what I mean? Like if you ask me to talk about the fights in front of people, like I don't know, it's just the fights. I understand it. Trying to get somebody to actually get a reaction out of them, I would never be able to do it. I'd be too embarrassed. I'd be too. Not embarrassed. I would just be too overwhelmed with it. So I admire that stuff. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're out there and you're just not getting a single laugh, and last night I was getting some laughs. For some reason I just was a little bit off. I can't explain it. Just other than I didn't have the right energy or something. But yeah. The last thing you want to be doing is just standing there and everybody's staring at you like, why is this?
I can't even picture it. That would be my biggest fear. It would hold me hostage. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right before I went up, it's called like a bump spot. If somebody, popular comes in and if someone's touring and they're out of town. So it just so happened right before I was supposed to go on, a guy, his name's Orlando. He just came straight off of, he was on the Conan O'Brien show, I think last week. And then was touring and he was in town. So he ended up going on right before me. He did it like a 10-minute set, I think. And he killed it. He absolutely crushed it. People were dying laughing. And then as soon as he got off, I saw a bunch of people get up to go to the bathroom. I was like, oh, I'm fucked. I was like, this isn't good. But, it is what it is. You just deal with it. But
yeah, you still got to do it. Yeah.
I was like, I still got to do it. But as soon as he started killing, I was like, oh, you motherfucker. I wish you got here 5 minutes later and you'd be going up after me.
Yeah. You could have warmed him up.
But, yeah, so I'm definitely, and I'll hit you guys up. I'm going to try to make it. It's tough, Friday nights. I'm usually trying to get on, shows and stuff like that. But I think I also, because I want to see James fight too. James is
it's gonna be fun.
A buddy of mine. So actually, I'm going to see some other. I'm going to try to see. I think a few other comedians got some tickets from him and are going to try to make it. So
okay, great.
It's always fun when you know somebody fighting. I know another guy that fought for you guys, Jamie Campbell. I think he fought on FC 4 or 5 or something like that. Yeah. Him and I played football together at Merrimack College.
Wow.
He was a little bit older than me. He was a senior when I was a freshman, but he was just always such a great dude, incredible athlete. So if he's fighting, I'm going to it. And then I get so nervous. I get I'm sweating. I'm pacing back and forth. It's tough for me to watch it, but I have to look,
Yeah, we always joke when we've had Jamie fight for us a bunch and years ago, and he's like the mayor of Wilmington. You know what I mean? Absolutely everybody, within 30 miles knows Jamie. It's funny. He's he's one of the most uniquely popular dudes that we've ever had.
Yeah. He's just a likable dude. He's just got a really good way about him. He's a nice kid.
Right. Yeah.
And he was a star athlete, right?
Oh my God. He was I'm pretty sure I was a freshman. He was a senior. He was a captain and just unbelievable outside linebacker. And he was a little bit probably undersized for, a linebacker spot compared to, some other teams in our league. But dude was a ball hawk, always there, always making tackles, just a natural athlete. One quick story about him. I think it was maybe it had to have been my freshman year, his senior, but the day before the Boston Marathon, he wasn't trained for a marathon. The dude just decided, all right, I'm gonna go run in it. and like the next day he went and ran and had like a really good time. Just like he was that kind of athlete. Like give him the ball and
Of course he did.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's mental.
Great dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah, we love Jamie.
Good instructionals too. I've had him on the podcast before, and he's done them with some of the best. Anderson.
Oh yeah.
I think Anderson Silva was his first instructional. He said he was like, starstruck, but
yeah. He's had Tyson. He's had Rafael Cadera, whatever those name is, and Teddy Atlas, Mike Tyson. He's had some really high level. Matt Brown, the immortal Matt Brown.
Yeah, he's in a bunch with him. Do you guys think this Tyson Paul fight's going to happen?
I don't even pay attention to it. I think
it'll probably happen.
I don't like that kid's attitude. I just don't like him as a personality. I just don't. He rubs me the wrong way.
Well, he's doing it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy. He might be a good guy. He might be a really good.
Well, no, you have to understand. He's doing it on purpose. It's all like, so he's actually an actor. Like, so we got to start there, right? Like,
yeah, right. Mickey Mouse Club actor.
Like, he's actually an actor, right?
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, like when he was a childhood actor. So when he's trying to play the heel, like Covington does, he doesn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
So he can he's. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say he's a brilliant businessman, but he's doing a phenomenal
money.
Right. Well, and he's doing it right. Like he fully understands that the reason why people are tuning in is because they want to see him get beat. So he continues like his calling out Conor, right? Like that's a stupid ass fight. Like Conor's 40 pounds lighter, right?
Never gonna happen.
Right, never. But the fact that he's calling out lighter guys pisses people off, so he keeps doing it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's the thing. Like Fight City has
I didn't realize he was an actor. I don't know anything about him. I've never seen him before except for the interviews and
Yeah, he was a Disney actor, right? Like he was on.
He does a really good job of making you not like him.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, he really does. But it's like I want to see Tyson knock him out, but he's old. He's really old.
He's 57 years old. That's going to be very, very difficult to beat a young guy.
Bullshit, right? So this is the one that I hate, right? Like they're buddies.
Yeah.
Like Tyson goes on his brother's podcast. Like there is absolute Tyson put a Jake Paul fight on a Tyson undercard. Like he kind of helped kick Jake Paul's boxing career off. Like
Nate Robinson fight, I think. Yeah.
Right. It's all bullshit. They're buddies. It's a fucking money grab. And it's, hey, let's do this together. And Tyson's, another one that he goes out, he does a really good job of marketing fights,
Also an actor. He knows the game.
Right. So I don't know what the action in the ring is going to look like. I mean, maybe it is something where, maybe the two of them both go in there and try. But I would say, this is two popular guys that are, at least friendly. I don't know if I want to say friends, but they're two popular guys that have a friendly relationship and said, let's see if we can make a little money. Why not?
Yeah.
So they're gonna make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Good for them. I didn't realize that was the case. I thought he was just an asshole.
No, yeah, I mean that's the thing. He is an asshole, but I would also say I think he's very strategic with all the things that he does. I think he continues to call out smaller guys because he knows it pisses people off. He continues to call out MMA fighters and saying things like I'm exposing MMA strikes. He says all the shit that he says just to needle people so that now all these guys that dislike him want to tune in and they hope to see him get the shit beat out of him, right? So he's doing a really, really good job of marketing his fights. Yeah. I just don't know where he goes from here, because like where else is he going to make big money? You know, like we've seen him fight a boxer. He's clearly not that. Like Tommy Fury sucks. You know, like and when I say Tommy Fury sucks, I mean like what's his
Yeah,
name
the
there?
scheme.
Yeah, well, Eddie Hearn, right? Like he's the big boxing promoter. He was doing an interview and he basically said, um, you know, he's like, Tommy Fury will never win, like, I forget what the title was, like a British Commonwealth title, something like that. Like, you know, like it's not a world title, but like he'll never even win a real regional title in boxing. Like he's not that level of a guy. And he was saying Jake Paul, you know, before the fight, he was saying this guy's probably going to beat Jake Paul, and he's a guy that's, you know, so all this shit about Jake Paul calling out Canelo and again, he's calling out a guy 40 pounds lighter than him, right? Um, like we've seen Jake fight boxers, and he's not that. Right, he's not that. He's clearly not a high level boxer, and you know, if he's calling out lighter MMA guys or older, you know, in the case of Anderson Silva, he was a phenomenal striker and they're about the same weight, but he was, the hell was he, 44 years old?
Yeah. In a different sport.
Right, exactly. Like, so you're calling out and, you know, a kickboxer who's 44 years old and basically retired, right? So like, you know, I just don't know who the hell else is out there for him. You know, maybe Masvidal, like, but Masvidal also just lost to Diaz and Jake beat Diaz. So like, I don't know that there's any interest in it. Like, I can't think of a single person.
Yeah, where he goes. It's got to be another retired MMA fighter.
Yeah, I mean, like again, Roy Jones, you know, he's another old boxer, but you know, Roy and Mike Tyson wasn't that great of a fight. Like Tyson was clearly better at this point. You know, Roy's another old guy. Like, who knows? You know, come up with something.
Before, I know you guys probably get out of here soon, but I had two other questions that I forgot to ask earlier. When you were talking about the amateur fight,
yeah,
the female fight, did you guys see the Contender Series fight Tuesday?
Yeah. The end. I had some stuff going on, so I didn't tune in, but yeah, I saw the end of it, and
oh my god, she absolutely, I forget her name.
Yeah,
I think it was like maybe a Mexican name or something like that, but she shut her off. Like it was a crazy knockout. Crazy.
I like when Dana looked at her and he said, I don't know if you can grapple. I don't know if you can kick even. She said, but I'm going to give you a shot based on that, you know.
Yeah, it was scary knockout. Probably one of the worst I've ever seen in the female fighters, for sure. It was quick too. Early in the fight, within 30 seconds, maybe. Again, she was, I think, a plus 1,200 underdog or something like that.
1350.
What was it?
1350.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And like, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Like in women's MMA, when you find someone who can crack like that, like it's so marketable, right? Like I think that's why Valentina was someone that people really latched onto. Because she was like, you know, when a lot of the fights are going to decision, or even, you know, like if there are some finishes, they're not usually violent. Like you don't see, like when Amanda Nunes was getting popular because she was knocking people the fuck out. Valentina was kicking people in the head and knocking them cold, right? Like, so like those are the, you know, Rose Namajunas, like she was knocking people out. So like that's that's what people really latch onto, you know. It's so hard to like there's not many fighters that end up popular in the UFC that with the majority of the fights are decisions.
Yeah,
you know, like,
I'm excited for Valentina's fight at Noche. That's going to be a good card. I'm excited to see what the production looks like for that fight. My buddy just went to the Dead and Company show at the Sphere, and he said it's
cool.
He said it's like the most unbelievable show. He's not really a UFC fan, but after going to see Dead and Company, he's like, I'm definitely watching Noche just to see what they do for the production, because he said the Sphere is unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm actually going to Vegas for part of the week. I got to be out there for work. So I take a red eye home Wednesday so that I can be here for weigh-ins Thursday. So I don't know.
He keeps
Maybe
doing the same thing. He takes the entire week off of the fight and then shows up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like
ridiculous. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So.
And then I had one more UFC question. When we were talking about Jake Paul and you mentioned Kobe, I've heard also Kobe's rumored to be matching up against Poirier. I know they had previously said, or Poirier said that he wouldn't fight Kobe. But it's I don't know if it's just rumors, if it's something going to happen, or if it's really actually targeted. But do you guys could you picture that fight happen, or would you like? It's a little bit like where either one of those. They're two of my like. I will watch a Poirier fight or a Kobe fight if it's on for sure.
Yeah.
But it is sort of like I'm wondering where are they going to go? Are they going to retire, or if they win, like what's the next step for either one of those guys? But
I love the fight. What else do you do with either one of them?
See Dustin retire. I don't know what he's got left to prove. I mean, he's the guy's done it all. I mean, he's unbelievable, with the exception of having a title, right? I think he's at some point you got to take the money and run.
Yeah.
This is
Why doesn't Dana retire, right? Like Dana's got plenty of money. Why doesn't Dana retire? Sometimes people just
different. Dana's not getting punched in the head. You know what I mean? I get it,
but at the same time, it's what they like to do, and
but it's not. After being around for as long as I've been around, 60 years old almost. There's a price to be paid for too much of the shit. The guys that come back when it's a short thing.
That's the thing. Like if they're looking at, they can't come back to it. It's not like they can, they can't just go back to work 5 years from now and go back and make the kind of money they're making. Like that's the thing. If you're a guy like one more fight, I mean, he's going to make $1 million, right? Yeah. Like, so, and it's not like
but he's going to take one more fight. Is it going to be one more fight? I don't think it is. I think it's just too tough to get out. I like to see guys.
Maybe he takes 5 more. Who knows? But I guess where I'm going with it is like, I don't know his financial situation, but I doubt he's got $40 million in the bank, right? Like, it's not like he's like filthy rich, right? So if you stay in for another, couple fights, maybe you make another, $2-3 million, and all of a sudden that's the difference between, like you're setting up wealth for generations, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think
look good against Islam too.
Yeah, he did. Like that's the tough thing with him, right? Like he'll look really good in a lot of fights, but it's like he'll just come up just a little short, and he doesn't usually get knocked out, right? Like so that's been kind of a positive for him. I mean, I think the Colby fight's a safe fight for him. Colby's not going to hurt him. It's not like Colby's going to box his ears off and give him a concussion, like I think I'm sure Dustin would take some.
When's the last time Colby fought? He hasn't fought forever, right?
Leon, I believe. The Leon fight.
Yeah, the Leon fight isn't that long ago. I mean, the Leon
maybe
6 months.
Probably about maybe a year or something like that, close to a year. But before that, it was probably like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Whatever happened with his tooth. So he was up for a little
Masvidal, bit. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a fight that I still like watching both guys compete. And, the thing that I have no interest in is like, I don't want to see Colby Covington fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, no, like, we don't need to see that. Like, I don't want to see Colby be a B-side guy where he's coming in to get the shit beat out of him by the next up and coming prospect. Like, like it's just not, I don't need to see that. So him and Poirier.
Well, it's funny that you say that because that's what I don't want to see happen to Dustin. You know what I mean? I don't want to see him fight guys that are on their way up that are just for the sake of, getting the last drop out of a guy. I'd rather see him fight fun fights that with guys that are in the same position that he's in,
I just don't like when that happens, and it unfortunately that's the way the sport works. I mean, it's been happening for 1,000 years. It's a numbers game, right? It's it's the amount of fights that you had, the amount of damage you take, the weight, the age, it's just that those numbers gang up on you. But I hate to see guys that have done so well and then they wind up, just taking more fights than they need.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to, that fight, Colby and Poirier, that'd be fun. I mean, then throw in, I don't know, put one of them in with Nick Diaz or something. It looks like Nick's still taking some fights, right? Throw, maybe Nate Diaz comes back. Maybe you throw Masvidal in the mix somewhere. You do a fight with him and Colby again. Like, I don't know. Like, I would say just like fun fights, like fun appropriate fights is what I'd like to see with those guys. Like I don't need to see either one of them, like like what Joe just said. No reason to be, to see them just be fodder on the way out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So. All right. I think that's a great point to wrap up. And thank you guys again so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's always good to talk to you, buddy. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, like, best of luck for next week of the show. I hope everything goes as
it's going to be good.
I know the fights are going to be exciting as they always are.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I can't wait.
If anybody needs tickets, combatfc.tv.
Beautiful. All right, well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Okay, good night, Freddie. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much.